everyone, I'm Deanna DiCarlo with Albany Public Library, and I'm speaking with U-Albany's College of Emergency Preparedness, Homeland Security, and Cybersecurity's Vice Dean, Dr. Jennifer Goodall. Vice Dean Goodall is coordinating a regional effort to deliver 3D printed medical shields to healthcare workers. So as you can imagine, she has a tremendous amount going on. Thanks so much for all you're doing with this initiative, and thanks so much for being with us this afternoon.
Thank you for having me.
For starters, can you tell us a little bit about the CEHC and your position there?
Sure. So CEHC, we have about 2,000 students. It's the newest college at the University of Albany. It started in 2015. We have a couple of undergraduate majors. We've got a couple of graduate programs focused around emergency preparedness, homeland security, cybersecurity, and the use of information. So we have everything from an undergraduate program in EHC topics to the Master's in Science and Library Science program. We have a program for school libraries. The Information Science program moved into CEHC in spring of 2018, which was kind of a strange marriage at the time, but it actually makes a lot of sense now that we're all together and really, especially with this emergency, seeing how the different sides of the house can support each other. So for example, bringing together the emerging technologies in the 3D printing with the emergency response from the two sides of the house. This is a really good example of us all working together.
That is fantastic. How did CEHC first get involved with creating medical shields for Albany Med?
So one of the early weekends after we had all been sent home, we got sort of a series of messages from different places from a couple of the different hospitals. My husband and I actually know somebody who works at Albany Med, and so he had reached out and said, any chance you guys are doing something with 3D printing? So a small group of us from the college got together that weekend to say, okay, what's out there? What's going on? What can we do? And then we spent a week working on what could we get? Because as everybody knows, it's getting harder to get stuff. Deliveries are delayed, just things that are just generally not available. So we frantically ordered as much filament as we could. We actually ordered more 3D printers before we even knew what we were going to do, and sort of really pulled together a small group to say, okay, what can we do? We found a bunch of designs online. We printed 15 different prototypes, sent them to Albany Med 2 weeks ago. They tried them out and they immediately gave us feedback and said, we really like this one. And it's the one that we've been working on since. And they just wondered if we could make it a little bit longer for a little bit more of a shield. So what the actual shield is a relatively simple 3D print visor that has 6 posts. And then you attach to those 6 posts a transparency. And it's like the old school overhead transparency. So it's really not a complicated design. It's quite simple, but that's what they liked the most. And what surprised us, what we didn't really know that they were going to use it for, is actually to protect the mask. So we all know that there's a shortage of masks. And so they're able to use the shield to get more usage out of their masks.
That was a great description of the components of the shield and sort of a bit about the design. What were some of the initial challenges to overcome or solve before arriving at the current product?
So I think some of the challenges early on were figuring out sort of which design to focus on, and then some really sort of ridiculous issues. Like the one that we have, as I mentioned, has 6 posts, so you pop 6 holes in with a hole puncher. And you'd be surprised at how hard it is to find a hole punch where you can actually make this work. The original design was created in Europe. And so they used a different size piece of transparency. So it has been adapted for the US, but our hole punches aren't quite the same. So as small as that seems, without the right hole punch, you actually can't make the shield. So what we actually started off with was a crafting hole punch that just punched 1 at a time. And so actually punching 6 different holes instead of just 2 pops. So that was one of the early challenges. One of the challenges that we continue to face are finding enough transparencies. So we sort of frantically ordered that first weekend, and when you order things online, you can't always quite tell what you're going to get. And so a bunch of the transparencies that we've gotten have actually had a film on them, so they're not clear. What that led us to do is we put out a call on campus for anybody who had transparencies in a supply closet that they're not using anymore, completely overwhelming response of people saying, I've got 3 boxes, I've got 6 boxes. So we've collected all the boxes and we have a lot of transparencies right now. They're all the smaller ones, which is not the preferred size, but it's better than nothing. So we're using it. But that response was just huge from campus.
That's amazing. And who would have ever thought we'd be using those transparencies again for such an important reason? It's amazing.
I feel like we're doing a little bit of a recycling favor also, in sort of, the reduce, reuse, recycle. We are reusing in a way that I don't think anybody anticipated.
Absolutely true. Absolutely true. So where are these shields being produced?
We made a conscious decision that no one household should have all of the materials, so that should anyone get sick, we would stop production in that location and not spread it. So we have a few alumni who are doing printing. We've got some faculty. We're doing some in my house. A student is doing some printing. As people have heard about what we're doing, other people have said, I have a 3D printer. What can I do to help? That's how Albany Public got involved. Your director had reached out to us. He teaches for us, so he knew what we were doing. He reached out and he said, we have a printer in the library. Can we use it? And so that sort of led to, the situation where a friend of a friend has a printer. So we've got people printing these visors all over. We've got somebody in Georgia, we've got somebody in Maryland, and they're just our friends of friends and people all over the capital region. We got some press that first week. So the people have reached out to the hospital about how can we help? And so they've referred them back to us. We've got prints going on all over, and then we have a system of people to punch the holes in the transparencies and then assemble, again, so that it's not in any one location, and we've got a lot of redundancy built in. The other thing I'll mention about the sort of security is we had everybody who's printed actually mark their visors so that if that person should show symptoms tomorrow, we can then go pull all of those advisors or tell the hospital, like, pull those, don't put those out there.
That's an incredibly smart plan. I mean, it's so important to be able to track back, symptoms. If hopefully no one will exhibit any, but it's so important to be able to do that, especially if we're delivering product to our healthcare providers. How are the producers obtaining materials to 3D print the shields and the component pieces? And I guess what kind of technology, what kind of printers are working?
We started in the college, we have some Prusa printers. So that's what we started with. But we also had just bought some Prusa minis, which doesn't have a print bed large enough for the design. And then some other people have even a smaller 3D printer. So what we've got are 3 different versions of the same visor that we're printing. And the sort of medium size one of our staff had adapted the original to be able to fit onto a mini. And then the NIH website sort of released a 3-part visor version for even smaller printers. So it's a real mishmash. And the filament, we're mostly using PETG. We're also using some PLA filament. On campus, the School of Education said, we have a printer in a closet if you want to use it. That's a sort of older TAS Lulzbot. And the art department said, we have a couple of printers. So they're working on MakerBots, which are even older. It's a real mishmash, but it's working.
Can you name any other community partners besides U-Albany that are involved in this project?
We also have, I would say, probably not as organized as what we're doing with Albany Public. I know that you've had a bunch of your staff jump in and work on the project with us, but we have a teacher from Shenandoah who, again, just sort of heard about things. We had put out a call for volunteers on our social media. So actually a bunch of our sort of related moms are involved in assembling right now. We've got alumni who saw that and said, sure, I'll help. We've got students who are helping who are not even our students. They're University at Albany students, but they're not within CHC, who just wanted to help. So it's really just, as people are hearing about it, they're saying, what can I do to help? I have a big car, I can drive stuff around, or I'm still mobile, because some people are not leaving their houses at all. So we've got some people who are just driving stuff from one house to another. So it's been actually really interesting to watch the group grow. I think we started with about 5 of us, and in a week there was 27 of us. And sort of, not to get into the nitty-gritty of the technology, but we're using Slack, and it's just been really cool to watch people who don't know each other check in on each other and ask about, do you have a mask? And are people in your area wearing masks? And sort of really kind of in this physical distancing age, find social connection with total strangers, but grouped around a common interest and effort has been super interesting for me to be part of.
How many shields has the project delivered to Albany Med as of this recording?
About 330 to Albany Med over the last 2 weeks, and another 100 plus to other organizations. With the media that we got that first week for doing it, people started reaching out and saying, I work in a doctor's office and we don't have shields. Can we have some? Or locally on our campus, our 5-quad emergency responders are going in and they wanted some shields. So we've been providing them to other organizations as well. All told, it's been over 400 in just 2 weeks.
Have we had a sense of the response from Albany Med?
Albany Med has been great. I mean, that first week they gave us feedback. I checked in with them again last night to make sure that everything was going okay. And so the feedback has been really positive from Albany Med. I dropped off another 200 yesterday, and they said that they were had just about handed out all of the ones that we dropped off last Monday. They're definitely in use and appreciated. So it's been great to get that feedback. I think that's been something that's really interesting too, because I feel like with 3D printing, people can often think like, oh, with a 3D printer, you print out the tchotchke or the little octopus that everybody has on their desk kind of thing. To be able to work with people who are actually using it and knowing that it's helpful and useful has been a really great experience for us.
I think that's absolutely echoed in the public library realm as well. I know that here at Albany Public and also some of our partners at Bethlehem and RCS Community and Rensselaer and Voorheesville are feeling the same way. Like, this is something real, a real practical application that can be useful. So we're so delighted to be able to help out. What other support do you still need? Donations, supplies, volunteers? And where would you direct folks if they wanted to find out more about how they can help out?
Yes to all of those things. I think probably the best way, if you wanted to do any of that, would be to contact me through email. My email is jgoodall@albany.edu. And so it's JGOODALL at albany.edu. The supplies that we really need the most are either people who have 3D printers and want to print the design, and we can share the different designs that we're working on. If you have transparencies in a closet and you don't want to store them in your closet anymore, we are happy to take them. Or if you want to order us transparencies, some people have done that. Or if you want to order us the hole punch or paper cutter, and volunteers for sure. Again, either with the printing or assembling. Last night, I packed up 175 sets for people who had volunteered yesterday to help assemble, to sort of just up the scale of it all. And certainly financial donations are always appreciated as well.
Is there anything else you'd like our listeners to know?
I just really appreciate the partnership that we're having with Albany Public on this. I think it's just one more example of how both a college with a specific name like us and a library have so much common ground and can find ways to partner. And I think I'm so happy for that partnership, and I adore Scott anyway. And so the fact that he said, what can we do and how can we help? And, sort of gave permission to everybody to jump on board with that. It's just been really much appreciated.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you. All right, everyone. Thanks again for listening. Thanks again to Vice Dean Jennifer Goodall for sharing information with us about this vital project. And thanks to all of you out there again for listening. Be safe and be well until we meet again. Everyone, I'm Deanna DiCarlo with Albany Public Library, and this afternoon I'm speaking with Nolan Doroski, one of the fantastic librarians at our Washington Avenue branch. Nolan has been instrumental in APL's participation in a medical shield 3D printing project with U-Albany's College of Emergency Preparedness, Homeland Security, and Cybersecurity. Nolan, thanks for chatting with me today.
Glad to be here. Big fan of the podcast.
Tell us about yourself and your role, especially in APL's makerspace.
I'm a librarian with Albany Public Library. I mostly do adult services at Washington Avenue branch, stuff like reference desk work. In the makerspace, I'm one of 2 library staff that work in that room during open lab hours, the other one being my talented colleague, Ryan. So I coordinate programs like 3D printing classes, arts and crafts workshops, things like that. Basically, my role is just to keep the room running, stocked for whatever creative pursuits people are interested in.
That's wonderful. Are you finding that the room is used quite a bit when we are able to be open, that is?
Yeah, we've hit a really good stride. It's taken a while for people to adjust to the room not being a bookstore or coffee shop. Some people don't know the room exists, but we have a whole lot of regulars and word is spreading. So, people are using a whole lot of that equipment when we are open.
How did you first learn about the 3D printing project with CEHC?
Thankfully, our library director, Scott Jarzombek, had a contact with Jennifer Goodall at SUNY. She's the vice dean of CEHC. I think that's College of Emergency Preparedness, Homeland Security, and Cybersecurity. So she's been working really hard coordinating with local organizations and people with 3D printers to supply hospitals in the area with the visor frames that we're printing. So, he got everything set up, okayed it with us, and Jennifer has provided some 3D models for the visor frames and connected us with groups of people doing the same sort of thing.
How have you been able to set up a print shop in your home?
At first, staff were asked not to return to the library just to prevent as much contamination as possible, but luckily Scott was able to make an exception for me and let me enter the library, pick up our 3D printers and all of the supplies in there. So, I just drove over, parked my car in the empty lot, probably one of the first times I've ever seen the lot empty on, middle of the day, and got all the stuff from Makerspace and brought it home. I've got a little basement with a workbench that's a perfect size for the 3D printers. So, I set it up and it's been running ever since.
What materials and specific technology are you using to print the visors?
We've got 2 3D printers. The first one is a Lulzbot Taz 6. And then there's a Lulzbot Mini. They're both basically the same printer. One just kind of has a smaller volume of material that it can build. It's just a smaller version. We also have a large supply of filaments. They're called PLA and PETG filament. They're basically just the 2 different kinds of plastics that we melt down and use to construct the visor frames that we're doing. So it's kind of like the ink in a printer. These are the materials that we use to print everything.
How have you been keeping up and gaining information about what the entire team is working on, file updates, etc.?
Jen Goodall set up a Slack page for everyone who's part of the team. Slack is an online workspace. It's kind of like a message board, and everyone who's part of the team can post various links and updates, questions, that sort of thing. And, anyone part of the team can see everything that's on there. So that's where I went to download the original visor frame digital file. And that's where we got updates on different versions of the file that made it a little easier to print on smaller printers.
What has been your output so far? How many visors have you printed?
As of today, it's about 80 visors. On a good day, I could do about 10 to 15. Sometimes that can drop if there's any print failures, technical problems. But, generally I'm pretty happy to get 8 to 10 of them.
Have you had any challenges on this project?
The first major challenge was that the Lulzbot Mini turned out to be too small to print the original visor frame. The build plate just wasn't big enough to handle the whole thing. So luckily, that Slack page, you sent me an update. Somebody had come up with a 3-part file for the visor frame. So it just breaks it into pieces so you can print it out one by one on a smaller build plate. Ever since I got that file, I've been able to use that Mini. Working from home, I'm sure I'm not the only one dealing with issues with this. I've got a toddler at home. He wants to do everything that I do. So if I head to the basement to do 3D printing, he wants to go with me. That can sidetrack my work for about an hour while he's, admiring the equipment and stuff like that. So that sort of thing we're dealing with, but it's part of the fun too.
Oh my gosh, that's adorable. Didn't you tell me that he had a nickname for the printer?
Well, at first he was calling it the DD printer, and now I call it that, but he actually knows how to say 3D printer now, so it's really just me who calls it the DD printer.
Nostalgia for 3 days ago.
Yeah, it's just too adorable.
Well, Nolan, tell us in your own words why this project is important for our region.
I mean, I just think it shows that people who aren't medical workers or who aren't on the front lines, we all have our part to do. We've had a whole community of really smart people come together to help, and it's just inspiring to see that there's a lot of people who care and are willing to contribute in a lot of different creative ways, however we can. So I really like that.
That's really well said. I cannot agree more. Is there anything else you'd like our listeners to know?
You know, it might take a little bit of time for this situation to blow over, but when it's all said and done, library will still be there. Library staff will still be there. We're looking forward to seeing each other. I know staff, we miss working with each other. We miss all of our patrons. And, you know, we're still working hard behind the scenes. So I hope anyone listening will check out our online services, see what we're working hard to continue to provide, and hang in there. We're all in this together.
Paul, thank you for letting us do this interview. We've wanted to get you on the podcast for a while now, and we're all kind of trapped in our respective places. So this might be a good opportunity. So I wanted to ask you about the Rakim event. Rakim is one of my favorite MCs. Grew up listening to him. It was really amazing to have that event happen and for you to include Albany Public Library as part of it. It's cool to see an organization within a state university recognize culture, not necessarily popular culture, but, you know, culture like hip hop and rap and MCs. How did that all come about?
Yeah, it was great timing in that Rakim had this new memoir, you know, Don't Sweat the Technique. And it's really his journey. It's a beautiful book, but it's also, you know, gets deeply into his process and his practice of writing hip hop and his whole career as an MC. And again, he is one of my favorites, too. And we really enjoy collaborating with the Albany Public Library. I think our missions align, you know, to bring the power of writing in every genre. It can be literary fiction, it can be young adult fiction, it can be poetry, and it can be rap. And what was really heartwarming was to see the size of that crowd at the Howe Library, and also how wonderfully your staff handled a large crowd. You've got a really, really good staff. And what I really loved was the time with the youngsters who have their after-school program where they're creating their raps. They had, you know, special time with Rakim, and there were a couple hundred people lining up way around the block that just kept coming. I was really grateful that the library subsidized the copy of the book so people could afford to buy a copy of the book and to have it signed. And even people who couldn't afford a book just kept coming and wanted to take a selfie with Rakim, share some stories when they saw a performance of his. Some brought notebooks of lyrics of their own rap, and he was so giving. And it was such a beautiful human connection of, you know, a superstar in his world. But every person that came, he made them feel really special, like they were the only person in that long line that went on for a couple hours. We kept trying to get him, you know, we got to get uptown. We got this event at the Performing Arts Center. We were a little late getting up there because he just wanted to give time to all the people at the Howe Library. And it was one of the... I've been director of the Writers Institute for 3 years now. One of the highlight events that we've done, and we really appreciate the collaboration with the Albany Public Library, Scott. Your team is fantastic.
Thank you. So I wanted to kind of segue that into recently, about a month ago, I attended the film screening of Wild Style with Lady Pink. It blows me away that, you know, you don't think of an institution as big as the Writers Institute that has the history of the Writers Institute, you know, really to dive into this almost like subculture of graffiti and, again, hip hop. How did that happen? And, you know, how do you view that as a part of what you're doing with the Writers Institute?
We really like to collaborate, and we like to reach across genres and to all kinds of communities that, you know, we might not see on a regular basis on our campus. But we also want to reflect our student body population, which is becoming more and more diverse. We're over 40% students of color at the University of Albany now, and 35% first-generation students. So I think, you know, Lady Pink's work and her story of where she came from overcoming adversity to become an internationally recognized, graffiti artist with major commissions, and her work hanging in museums like Museum of Modern Art in New York City and museums around the world, that can inspire our students, inspire the people who come to the events, which we're happy to present free and open to the public. And, we try to do more of that, and we try to expand our offerings to, touch all people and all kind of genres. There's a misperception, I think, that the university is full of, academics who are kind of tweed jackets and a little bit stuffy. And when I came to the Writers Institute 3 years ago, we were leaning in that direction. I immediately wanted to throw it open and get it out in the community more and collaborate with more groups. And I should have mentioned the Rakim event was a nice collaboration between the University Art Museum, the University Performing Arts Center, and the Writers Institute. We call it the Creative Life Series. And Joe Donahue at WAMC, he's the other partner, and he interviewed Rakim on stage. And it was a great conversation. And that was the evening event that followed the afternoon event at Howe Library. So we love doing more of that, and we've done several events with the Albany Public Library, and they've all been very successful. They get us out in the community, and they bring people to hear these great authors that might not be as easily accessible to come up to our campus. We love getting out to public libraries and other places around the community.
So you've transitioned from journalism to, becoming an executive director of a rather large and well-respected institution. How was that transition? Are you still making it? Do you feel like you have your feet under you? What are some of the leadership things that you never thought you were going to have to deal with in your career?
It has been interesting. I've never been in charge of anyone. We were all, as journalists, I spent 33 years at the Albany Times Union. We're all kind of independent contractors, very independent, don't really have to oversee anyone. We work with editors, but we find the stories, we execute the stories. We're all kind of individual. And leading a team has been wonderful. I mean, newspapers are collaborative in that, the writing is just one part of it. There's got to be photography and editing and headline writing and everything to bring it together. So we have a really wonderful team of 4 people, and we have a graduate assistant. We have a couple University at Albany undergraduates as interns. And, we're able to do about 70, 75 events each year. We started a book festival. We're starting a film festival. We unfortunately had to postpone it. It was supposed to be at the end of March, and then COVID-19, the coronavirus pandemic hit. So it will be next spring of 2021. But I think we're willing to try new things. We're willing to take some risks. They're not all successful. Luckily, we've had a great track record in the last 3 years. I don't know. I'm still learning a lot. I'm not by nature an administrator, but I do think I like to work collaboratively. I rely on team members. I'm not a micromanager. Get really good people and surround them and bring out the best of all the people that we have on our team. I think that's the key.
Besides the cancellation of your film festival, what has been the biggest challenge, especially with your book festival?
I guess fundraising, which is one of my primary responsibilities. It costs money to put these on. We also need a lot of volunteers, so we get a lot of students, we get community members, and then it's building it and growing it. We didn't really know if it would be successful. We were amazed. First year, we estimated about 5,000 people. Grew a little bit the second year. We're going to make it, we've already got a date, September 12th this fall, and we're going to make it even bigger. We like that it also involves free workshops, a lot of variety of workshops for writers. It involves local authors who can have a table and meet readers and sell books. I'm kind of the conductor of this orchestra, and we've got a lot of people joining us and helping us, and especially people from the community who want to volunteer and be part of it. We're really lucky to have that. And to have Albany Public Library there every year. We have a really nice room with children's book authors, illustrators, some games, and the Albany Public Library has been a big part of that.
What is your favorite thing about public libraries?
I love roaming the stacks still. Again, I know so much has gone digital and you're offering so much I've always been a researcher. I've written a lot of books, and I was one of the last old school reporters that loved going into, we called it the morgue. It's really the library of clips. We used to have 3 full-time librarians with scissors and manila envelopes clipping and cataloging the newspaper every day. I miss that. I used to love digging into those. It's only been digitized since 1986. So if you really want to get to things a century ago or longer, you have to go to the microfilm, and that's a challenge without an index. So it was just a rich treasure trove. And that's what I love about the library, just roaming those stacks, finding a book I might not think about. It's similar to feeling what a bookstore. And I'm sad that we've lost so many great bookstores, but being able to roam shelves and shelves and stacks of books. The technology has changed. I used to go to the main branch and get CDs. I used to get when VCRs, VHSs were there. I even remember when I first came, I came to Albany in 1981 for grad school. Had a crummy student apartment and stuff. I remember that you guys would loan great art. And I think
yes.
I borrowed like a Picasso and a couple things to hang in my little student apartment. And it's really cool. I know you offer so many things, but it was really my, and this was before, this is dating me, Scott, but this was before, all the Hollywood video and things. It was really my entertainment center too for so long.
That's awesome to hear.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you were hunkering down and being, good about social distancing. Once everything is kind of back to normal, what's the first thing you're really looking forward to doing?
I'm looking forward to being face to face with our team. We're a small group. Most days there's just 4 of us, and we're meeting by Zoom and things. But we love, we have really nice offices, and we've got 2,000 plus books of the 2,000 plus writers we've brought to the Writers Institute in 36 years, and it's just this kind of literary sanctum sanctorum, and I miss being on the campus too, just walking across campus and seeing a really diverse student body. We've got students from 60 plus countries and all over the U.S., and that energy you get, with young people. So I'll really be happy when the campus comes back to full strength, and I'll love going out, on stage and introducing or leading a conversation with our guests, our great visiting writers. It's a dream job. I'm very thankful. But if I could turn the tables, how are you guys doing? I mean,
we're good. I mean, we're working from home. We're churning out programming. We're making sure that we're putting more money into digital, into books, and making sure that we still have people manning the phones. So all the work we're doing remotely. So even, we're partnering with CEHC, which is a department or a college in SUNY. We're making face masks for the local hospitals. So we're participating in that. That's being done from a staff member's home. You name it. I mean, this is the first time I've been in the building in weeks. So we're still doing the work that we do for the community, which is making sure, that correct information is out there, that we can be a resource as much as possible. Really proud of my staff. They pivoted quickly and had a plan in place, and we just keep churning out story times and putting them online and working on programming, working on our Goodreads, book groups there. We have more stuff coming. I think it's overall, it stinks. We want it over with. We want to get our buildings back open. We want to get back to serving the public face to face. But, we really did a really great pivot. And I'm really proud of my staff for everything they've done so far and everything they're going to do in the future.
Yeah, I'd love going to the library, and we interact with quite a few of your staff members, and they're really good. I would also mention we have a community poetry workshop, and it started meeting face-to-face in your Delaware branch and was going very well, and then, they could no longer meet, so they're meeting by Zoom.
That's awesome.
Forward. They're doing all right. You can do a lot online, but they really miss being together, and they will return to the Delaware branch when all this passes. And we appreciate, that opportunity too. You make public space available, which is really nice.
Yep, we're looking forward to that too. Paul, thanks so much for taking some time out to talk with me. And, we might have you back on in the future to promote some of the stuff you're going to do once you're ready to start doing your awesome programming.
Absolutely. I appreciate this. And, I think journalists are really important now, but librarians have always been important. We had a conference when I first came on, Telling the Truth in a Post-Truth World, almost 3 years ago now.
Yep.
And librarians are on the front lines. I mean, now more than ever, we need to vet our sources. We need to know what's factual and what's propaganda, or what's there's a lot of scam coming at us and things, and librarians have always been on the front lines of keeping fact-based, evidence-based truth in front of us. So I appreciate all the work that you and your staff are doing.
Thank you so much, Paul.
Hey, thanks, Scott.
The Albany Made Podcast is a production of Albany Public Library in Albany, New York, produced by Stephanie Simon, Scott Jarzombek, and Ryan Slowey. You can find more episodes on SoundCloud, iTunes, and other podcast apps. You can also listen on YouTube at Albany NY Library and our website, albanypubliclibrary.org.